International hockey is back tonight when the Four Nations face-off kicks off between Canada and Sweden. Hunter and I are going to get you set for that tournament, talk about which Penguins are involved, and of course, give out our Warrior helmet for Warrior Helmet Wednesday. All that right after this on a new Locked On Penguins.
Your Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Damp. You can follow me across all social media platforms at synonym for wet. Joined as always by my partner in crime, the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow him on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can give our show's Twitter account a follow at LO_Penguins. And of course, we appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Don't forget that we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. Plus, if you follow us on YouTube, don't forget to hit that notification button. That way you can be among the first to know when we drop our daily Monday through Friday episodes. The wait is over, Hunter. International hockey returns tonight, albeit it's only 4 countries. A lot of big names are not going to be at the Four Nations face-off because we are only looking at 4 nations, as it says in the title. It will be Finland, Sweden, Canada, and the United States, and it all kicks off tonight with Canada versus Sweden at 8 o'clock. So that means we will get to see some of our beloved Penguins involved in this tournament. For those who may not know, and I understand, this is Locked On Penguins. If you're listening to this, chances are you know all of this, but we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't give you that quick rundown. Here is who is involved from the Penguins. For Team USA, Mike Sullivan is the head coach of that team. He also is the head coach of Team USA next year at the 2026 Winter Olympics. Sidney Crosby, captain of Team Canada. He will be in action tonight, and he will go up against 2 of his teammates in Rickard Rakell and Erik Karlsson, who are part of Team Sweden. So that is your Penguins involvement. And I gotta say, we were doing this before we hit record. It's why we're dropping this show a little bit later than usual today, because we were geeking out over the line combinations and talking about all the possibilities. So rather than do that prior to hitting record, why don't we do that after we hit record, Hunter? So let's start with Team Canada, where Sidney Crosby is once again wearing the C for his home country. And fun fact, he is not on the first line. But when you talk about the line that he is on, dear God in heaven, how is this even fair? According to Daily Faceoff, and I imagine this is probably going to change somewhat because it is essentially 3 centers on a line, but he is with Nathan MacKinnon and Mark Stone. That is an absolute cheat code of a line.
100%. And they were really testing that line throughout the practices this week. It was actually Crosby at center for the start. Then they kicked him over to wing a little bit. That's why you see it on Daily Faceoff right now. We'll have to see what the full lines look like tonight once that game starts at 8 o'clock against Team Sweden. But by all intents and purposes, we are going to see Crosby play with MacKinnon, which is going to be a lot of fun. Like, again, people, I know some fans are not going to watch this. I totally get it. It may not be your thing. I 100% get it. But as someone who still likes international hockey, even though it's only 4 countries, I am still going to tune in, especially because we're not really going to get to see MacKinnon play with Crosby that often. So I will cherish this because these are 2 of the top 5 best players in the world. They're also best friends. It's going to be a lot of fun seeing what they can do together. And oh yeah, Mark Stone, no slouch either, Pat, by the way. Really fun player to watch. Just a total psychopath, honestly. That's what I think of Mark Stone. He is a psychopath on the ice in the absolute best way. Their top line is even better, though, with McDavid, Sam Reinhart, and Mitch Marner. Like, they have an embarrassment of riches in this lineup. It's going to be fun. But with Crosby, I'm excited to see how he looks coming off this injury. He may not be 100%, but you can still tell how much being the captain of this team means to him, playing in this game, how much it means to him. So I'm curious to see how he plays. He's always played super well for Team Canada over the years. He rarely loses while wearing that sweater, excuse me. So I'm excited to see. And then on the other side for Team Sweden, you get the two Penguins you mentioned, Rickard Rakell and Erik Karlsson. We'll start with Karlsson. He's not on the top pairing, which I'm fine with. That's Victor Hedman and Jonas Brodin. I think people forget just how good Jonas Brodin is. He's especially great in his own zone. Hedman, we all know how good he is in all three zones. But Karlsson is playing with Mattias Ekholm, and I love that Sweden is doing that, by the way. That is the perfect partner for Erik Karlsson. I mean, no disrespect to Marcus Pettersson. Very good player in his own right, especially in his own end. Mattias Ekholm is just a little bit better. And that's the perfect partner for him because you saw how it worked in Pittsburgh with Pettersson, with how he was able to kind of cover for Karlsson's mistakes at times. So if Karlsson does make a mistake or two during this tournament, Ekholm will be back there to try and cover for him. And you also get the offense from Karlsson on that second pairing, especially at 5-on-5. If you want him to quarterback a power play, he can do that. It looks like Hedman is quarterbacking that top unit for Team Sweden. I would expect Karlsson to be quarterbacking that second unit, but I really like that second pairing with him and Ekholm. And finally, Rickard Rakell playing in the top six. Very, very well deserved, especially considering his 25-goal season. He is going to be playing on a line with Mika Zibanejad and William Nylander. While Zibanejad has not been good this season for the Rangers, he is at least a distributor, and he can get the puck to Nylander and Rakell whenever he wants. We all know how great of a player Nylander is. His release is disgusting. Also good playmaker in his own right. But Rakell, he's the pure sniper on that line, in my opinion. All you got to do is get the puck to one of those two guys in Nylander and Rakell, and you're cooking with offense on that line. So, again, while I don't think Zibanejad is having that good of a year, I understand the vision why you're putting Rakell on that line. It's just funny that because he went from a player who, Rakell that is, wasn't on the team originally. He then gets put on the team. Oh, yeah, we're going to throw you into the top six and be one of those de facto 1A, 1B lines. I'm excited to see what he and Nylander can do together. I think they could cook potentially.
You're absolutely right about that line. Yeah, Zibanejad is not having a year that is conducive to what we know from Mika Zibanejad, from what we've seen over the past few years. But you put him with two guys who have absolutely lethal shots, and he still, even in a down year, is a very solid puck distributor. So that's exactly the kind of line you want to put him on. William Nylander, underrated playmaker, but still has, again, an underrated shot because who are his two teammates? Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, two absolutely electric players. So he flies under the radar ever so slightly, but you put Zibanejad on this line with Rakell and Nylander, and you are absolutely cooking with gas. It sounds like a slight to Zibanejad to say this, but in reality, it's the perfect way to set it up with this center is get the puck to one of these two guys and get out of the way. Your job is to be the quote unquote responsible one on this line. Let those two focus on putting the puck in the net, and you sit back and be the safety net for those two as they attempt to score. So really underrated team, I think. Underrated is probably not the right word because this is international hockey, but Sweden to me is a team that I don't think is getting as much hype, and we'll talk more about
people
the
need to
tournament.
stop sleeping on them. Like, we all know how great Canada is. We all know how great Team USA is the best USA team I've seen in my lifetime. But Sweden can win this, man. Like, you look up and down that lineup, really good forward group. Defensively, they're nasty. They got a good goaltender in Philip Gustafsson, especially if he turns it on. Do not sleep on Sweden. Like, I'll just say that.
No, not at all. And you then look at, obviously, we can go to the Penguins head coach, who is the head coach of Team USA. And this is going to be, and again, I'm not making a direct one-to-one comparison. It is just a way to bring this into the tent that is Locked On Penguins. You look at this Team USA team, and you can see what Sullivan's vision is. It's very similar to the 15-16 Penguins, where you look up and down this lineup, especially at forward, and it is a well-distributed group. You've got a top line of Jack Eichel centering Kyle Connor and Matthew Tkachuk. Your second line is Austin Matthews centering Jake Gensel and Jack Hughes. Third line, JT Miller between Matt Boldy and Brady Tkachuk. And then your fourth line is Vinny Trocheck between Brock Nelson and Dylan Larkin. So you look at that lineup and the way he's setting up those forwards, it's very similar in a way to what he did with the 15-16 Penguins, where you have killers up and down the lineup. You're not loading up. You're not putting everybody right at the top of the lineup. You're giving yourself options up and down. And you have been saying this ever since we found out that international hockey was returning this year. This is arguably the best crop of talent the United States has had since maybe ever. This is a culmination of, and if I can kind of digress a little bit here, this is the end product of USA Hockey as an organization dedicating itself to player development rather than constantly chasing the Canadians or the Russians or whatever country you want to name that has been at the top of the hockey world for the last 30 or 40 years. Because as someone who has coached in the USA Hockey program, I had to register with them. I had to take all of their classes. Their emphasis, top to bottom, is skill and player development. It's no longer just, you have to be part of this organization, do whatever you want. They have a model for developing skating, developing skills, developing whole 200-foot players. So this is starting to bear fruit, because you look at this lineup, not a lot of older players, a lot of guys in their early to mid 20s, a lot of guys who are just getting their footing under them as professional hockey players. So this is, I would say, the start of a very great era for USA Hockey.
I hope so. And just keeping it as a Penguins discussion, I feel like this is the exact type of lineup that Mike Sullivan could potentially do a lot of damage with. A lot of speed and skill. That's exactly the type of team that he likes to play with. You saw in 15, 16, and 16, and 17. The Penguins bulldozed all these teams with their team speed. He's hoping to do the same thing here with this crop of USA forwards and defensemen. The only thing that sucks is that Quinn Hughes is not playing. He's banged up. Totally get it. I'm excited to see him at the Olympics, because he really changes a little bit of the dynamic of the team with how great of a skater he is on the back end, how much offense he drives. He does not give it all back in his own zone. It's going to suck not seeing him there, but I'm excited to see him at the Olympics next year. But I like these lines. Like, would I like to see Matthews maybe as a top line center? Sure, but I also understand why Eichel is up there, because he's probably a bit more defensively responsible than Matthews, in my opinion. I think Matthews' defensive game is, okay. But Eichel, he's one of the best two-way centers in the league right now, in my opinion. I don't think he gets talked about enough as one of the best two-way centers in the league, but Eichel is right up there. But Pat, honestly, we're going to dive into more into this lineup in the second segment, as well as Team Finland. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
No, neither do I. I was just going to say, we're going to throw it to break here. We're going to keep this discussion going on the lineups, the teams, and give some predictions on what we think is going to happen at the Four Nations face-off, which again kicks off tonight, 8 p.m., Canada versus Sweden. Captain Sidney Crosby going up against Rickard Rakell and Erik Karlsson. And as I said, when we come back, we're going to dive more into the rest of the teams and lineups and give our predictions on the Four Nations face-off. But before we do that, we've got to tell you about today's first sponsor, and that is Factor. If you're looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle. Whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I absolutely love how Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. Over the past year or so, I have been really dedicated to getting myself back into shape. I joke all the time, I'm not getting any taller, so I better make sure I'm not getting any wider. And Factor is sure helping with that, along with all of my workouts. And part of that is I have had to really increase my protein intake, and I tried their Protein Plus meals, packed with flavor, absolutely convenient, and kept me full throughout the day. That convenience is absolutely unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off of your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnNHL50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's Factor Meals. All right, welcome back to the Wednesday edition, an international Four Nations face-off edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp, joined as always by Hunter Hodes. And let's keep this going here, Hunter. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to start with this because we're going to dive all the way into all the other rosters, and this is a way to get started on that. There is an under-the-radar game in this tournament that I am very much looking forward to, and that's on Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, Sweden versus Finland, because we obviously know, as a bunch of backward hat wearing, flag waving Americans, that USA Canada, that's our rivalry. We love that rivalry, whether it's men's hockey, women's hockey, you name it. Our two nations have absolutely battled on the ice over the past couple of decades, and it's always a classic. But Sweden versus Finland, underrated rivalry. These are two teams that are essentially mirrors of one another. Sweden, they obviously have more of an emphasis on speed and skill. We talked about their lineup. They have a ton of talent. But when you look at Finland, are they one of the better teams? They are probably 4 of 4 in this tournament. But the underrated strength of this Finland team is down the middle. You have Alexander Barkov as your top line center, Sebastian Aho in the second line, Erik Karlsson in the third line, and Anton Lundell on the fourth line. And then you look at their defense, and while you're not going to look at these 6 defensemen and think, oh my God, these are the best of the best, they are all very reliable. Nico Mikkola, Esa Lindell, Juuso Välimäki, Olli Mata, our old friend. And overall, this is a team that is going to play Sweden very tough.
They will. The only thing when I look at Team Finland is, man, I wish Miro Heiskanen was healthy. That's the biggest one, man. He is so good at the top of that lineup. He drives a lot of offense, really great in his own zone, really good in transition. It's just going to stink not seeing Heiskanen there. But I'm excited to see him at the Olympics in 26 because without him, and they're just really banged up on their back end overall. This defensive group, it's fine, but it's not nearly as good as Canada's, Sweden's, and Team USA's. Mikkola, is fine, but he's not a top pairing defenseman. Esa Lindell, he's a top 4 guy. You have Olli Mata, Välimäki, as you mentioned, but still, they're really missing an elite puck mover up there. Forward-wise, I do think they have a really strong lineup. It all starts with Sasha Barkov. You know what you're going to get from him. He's the best two-way forward in the league. He is going to try and shut down the opposing top player every time he's out there. He has Mikko Rantanen next to him. That's going to be fantastic, by the way. Seeing Barkov and Rantanen together, sign me up for that, especially with how good Rantanen is as a player. Arturi Lehkonen as well. You have Roope Hintz and Sebastian Aho together on one line as well. With Hintz, he's also a really good two-way player. Underrated shot, but Aho, great playmaker. I think those two could work really well together on a line. You have Patrik Laine on there. Congratulations to him, by the way, with the way he's been playing this year. The fact that he was named to Team Finland. Super happy for Patrik Laine. You have Teravainen, Joel Armia, congrats to Mikael Granlund playing on this team as well. Goaltender-wise, though, you got Saros, you got Kevin Lankinen. Saros, I know he's been a bit down this year in Nashville. Watch out, though, especially with a lineup like this. He has the ability to steal any game because when he's on, this is a top 5 goaltender in the NHL. So while I do agree with you, they are, I would say, the 4th best team out of 4 in this. They're still going to give every team a really good fight, and I'm excited to watch them against Team Sweden this weekend.
And you hit on the biggest thing for me when it comes to Finland. Is it probably the 4th best roster of the 4 in this tournament? Absolutely. But when you have UC Saros and Kevin Lankinen as your 2 goalies, you are going to have a chance. And again, you said it. I agree with it. UC Saros is having a down year, but we're going to find out if that is because of Nashville's struggles overall as a hockey team, or if he really is having a down year. But you put him in front of a defense in a team like this, I think you're going to see the UC Saros we're more used to seeing over the past couple of years than we have this season, because it's a much stronger roster. So he has the ability to really buoy this Finnish roster in net. And don't sleep on Kevin Lankinen. He's also having a very solid year. So they are very good at the most important position. And if it's a 4-game tournament, potentially, if you make it all the way. So you get hot for a couple games in net, that can steal you this tournament. So don't sleep on Finland whatsoever. Now, we know what the main event is. We know what game we are most looking forward to, and that is Saturday night at the Bell Center in Montreal, USA versus Canada. Two absolutely loaded rosters. If this was NHL 25, one team would probably have an overall of 99, another would have an overall of 98, and there is so little daylight between both of these rosters. But we talked about this very quickly at the end of our Tuesday episode with our pal Josh Yohe. I think the X factor for the United States over Canada is goaltending. You look at who the United States has in net. They, of course, have Connor Hellebuck, who is one of the best goaltenders on the planet. They also have Jake Ottinger, who is known to get very hot when it matters. And then you go to Team Canada, and it is really, really not much of a competition between these two teams. They named Jordan Binnington the starter for Team Canada. They've also got Aiden Hill. Their third goaltender is Sam Montembeault, which fine, whatever. He's probably not going to play. That's really what it comes down to for me with USA versus Canada. The United States has the better goaltending. I would give a slight edge to Canada's forwards, and I would say the defense plays to about a draw. So you match all that up, I think USA has the ever so slight edge over Canada.
Well, I'm sure Canada is wishing that they took Logan Thompson for this tournament, especially with the year that he's having in Washington this year. Canada is always going to have the most talented roster in general, especially at forward. I'm glad that Team USA really did not galaxy brain this decision. I mean, yeah, I did say like a couple months ago, they probably should have brought in someone like Tage Thompson, Cole Caulfield, but for the most part, they brought all of their best players. They did not try to galaxy brain this like they did in the World Cup of Hockey back in 2016 when they tried to bring a bunch of grinders, some defensive specialists against Canada who, I mean, they're just going to mop the floor with you when you do that. Your only hope, in my opinion, is to bring the best players that you have and see what you can do. We all know Canada, their roster is absolutely stacked, especially at forward. I think their forward group is a little bit better than Team USA's. That's just being objective. Defensively, it's close. I think if Quinn Hughes were playing in this event, I would potentially take Team USA's defensive group. But now that he's not, it's almost a draw. Like I would say it's kind of right there. It's still very good for Team USA. I mean, Slavin with Fox is going to be a great pairing. Werenski's having a heck of a year. He's playing with McAvoy, Noah Hannafin with Brock Faber. I will gladly take that. But obviously, wouldn't you like it if Quinn Hughes was replacing one of those two guys on the bottom pairing? It would probably be Hannafin if I had to guess. Faber, I think, when he's in the lineup, it's a really good addition to this team. He's been awesome since coming into the league. But I've been going back and forth on my prediction for this. USA or Canada. I'm going to take Team USA to win this. I don't feel 100% confident about it because I feel like when you doubt Team Canada, that's when they strike even more, especially when how deep this team is, But I think the goaltending edge with Connor Hellebuck is going to be just enough for Team USA to squeak out a win here in this event. Now, will they win in the Olympics? We'll have to see. That's a year away. But in this glorified little appetizer Four Nations thing that I know is not going to be for everyone, I'm going to take Team USA to win it by a smidge.
I am going to hedge a little bit here, and you can all call me a coward. You can say whatever you want, but I do think whoever wins the first matchup, I do think the final is going to be USA Canada. I think that's what everybody wants. I think that's the most obvious, but I think whoever wins Saturday night in Montreal is going to be the team that loses in the final, because you have, again, we're not making this a referendum or a discussion on Mike Sullivan, but I want to say this. Canada and USA have two of, if not the two best coaches around right now in Mike Sullivan and John Cooper. And whoever loses has the coach that will make the necessary adjustments to win the next game. So I do think there is a very real world where these teams split. and the split will be between Saturday night and the final. But I will put my marker down and say, if you look at me and go, Pat, you have no choice. You have to pick a winner of the Four Nations face-off. Give me the red, white, and blue. Team USA comes out victorious at the Four Nations face-off.
Hey, I'm just glad you didn't wear your Crosby Team Canada sweater today on this show, because I probably would have had to fire you.
Hey, like I said to you yesterday when I threatened to do that, USA doesn't play till Thursday. They don't play till Thursday. It's Canada, Sweden to kick it off tonight. And if nothing else, I am a fan of Captain Sidney Patrick Crosby. But for those who may not know, here is the rundown of the schedule. Obviously, tonight, 8 o'clock, Canada versus Sweden kicks off the tournament. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., USA versus Finland. Saturday, we get Finland versus Sweden at 1 o'clock. And then 8 o'clock on Saturday, USA versus Canada. And then the tournament finishes its round robin on Monday, Canada versus Finland at 1 o'clock, Sweden versus the US at 8 p.m. And then on Thursday, February 20th, is the championship game at TD Garden in Boston at 8 p.m. So just because the NHL and the Penguins are on break doesn't mean that Hunter and I are on break. We are going to follow this tournament. We're going to follow the baby Penguins and any news that may come up. And we'll obviously put the call out for some of our pals to come on the show.
Speaking of, Wilkes-Barre got screwed last night, Pat, with that call. They need video replay in the AHL ASAP, because they should have tied that game and sent that to overtime against Hershey. That was an amazing game. A lot of scouts there watching that game. I can't believe Wilkes-Barre got screwed there at the end.
They got absolutely hosed, but that is going to do it for this second segment. When we come back, again, Penguins may be on break. Locked On Penguins isn't, and it's Wednesday, which means we're handing out our weekly MVP as part of Warrior Helmet Wednesday, and we will do that when we return right after this. But we got to tell you about our last sponsor before we do, and that is Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells variety because I'm a busy guy. I don't got time to crack nuts. I just need to pop them in my mouth and get my daily protein. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, welcome back to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp alongside Hunter Hodes, and it is once again a Wednesday, my dudes, which means it's time for us to hand out our weekly MVP award as part of Warrior Helmet Wednesday. For our new listeners and subscribers, this is us paying homage to the 2016 Stanley Cup winning Penguins, where their in-house team MVP that they would give after every victory was a Warrior helmet. So Hunter and I give our MVP every Wednesday on Warrior Helmet Wednesday for who we think was one of the best Penguins of the previous week. Obviously, we don't have a lot to choose from. They only played 2 games. They had the back-to-back against the Rangers and the Flyers, and then it was Four Nations break. But I do have one that might be a little off board. I don't think a lot of people would consider this one, but going back and watching some of the tape from those 2 games, there is a player I have to give my Warrior helmet to, and that is Blake Lizotte. I thought he had 2 very strong games, obviously scored against the Rangers, but overall, he looked a lot more like the Blake Lizotte we saw a couple of months ago where, yeah, everything he was shooting was going in, but he was extremely effective in all 3 zones. He was great in the offensive zone, whether it was providing pressure or at the very least being an outlet to keep teams from breaking out. He was very good in the defensive zone, shutting down a lot of good players across both the Rangers and the Flyers. So I really liked his game in the back-to-back trip up to New York and Philadelphia. So I got to go with Lizotte. I thought he had a strong 2 games, and I think coming out of the break, he is going to be one of the players to keep an eye on down the stretch.
That's a good one. I've been going back and forth between a few players, and I think I've landed on Philip Tomasino for my Warrior helmet for this week. I almost gave it to Ned once again just because of the way he's been playing lately, Pat. But the way that Tomasino has been playing for the last couple of weeks, I feel like it's overdue for him getting a Warrior helmet. Had that really nice goal against the Rangers in the first half of that back-to-back. Ended up being the game winner, by the way. Really nice one-timer pass to Shesterkin. He scored 2 goals in his last 4 games. For the season, 7 goals, 13 points. He had the goal against Nashville back on February 1st. Was shut out in the game against Devils, same with the Flyers, but still. 2 goals in his last 4 games. Ever since that healthy scratch, which I disagreed with, and I still do right now, he has been a much better player. And you kind of hinted at it, Pat, that it was maybe a little bit time for him to reset a little bit. It seems like he has, because he's been really good since coming back in the lineup. And he's someone that I could see the Penguins really having for not just the rest of this season, but next season, maybe the season after. I think they found something in this player, and I really like the week that he had. Even in the game against the Flyers, I felt like he was generating offensive scoring chances. Sam Ersson had a really good game. Like, sometimes that's the difference, even though he's not been that good of a goalie this year. So my Warrior helmet this week, I'm giving it to Philip Tomasino. Almost gave it to Ned, though. I will say that. And also almost gave it to Rakell again. But we've also given a lot of Warrior helmets to Rakell this year, especially the year he's had. But my Warrior helmet this week goes to Philip Tomasino, and I believe that's the first time I've given him a Warrior helmet this year.
If I do look at my notes here, I do believe that is the first Warrior helmet for Philip Tomasino. It is the second time we have given Blake Lizotte a Warrior helmet. You gave him one a few weeks back. But yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with anything that you said. And you hit on something I brought up a couple of weeks ago with Tomasino, is I don't think he was so much being punished as he was giving just a chance to reset. And with a player of his age, with, I don't want to say everything he's been through, because it's not like he's had some tumultuous career, but a player of his age at his development, it's not the worst thing to give him a game or two to just watch the game from up top, take notes, then watch film when he's away from the rink, practice, hit the reset button, and get back to the things that have made him effective as a Penguin. And it certainly has seemed to work, because in the past couple weeks, he has been a pretty effective forward, and he does look like he will be part of the long-term solution for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But that is going to do it for the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. Hunter and I will be back with a brand new episode for you on Thursday. We will obviously talk about what we saw in the opener of the Four Nations faceoff, as well as probably dive into some minor league things and whatever else may happen between now and then. But for Hunter Hodes, I'm Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we will be back with a new episode on Thursday.